Welcome aboard, Raider Nation. All right, well, today is Wednesday, and I don't want to get too much into the Charger game at this point. I'm going to start getting into it a little bit more tomorrow, and then we will have a guest on Friday for our breakdown of the San Diego Charger game. So I will touch on a couple of points. I mean, in the first segment today, we're going to talk about Mike McCoy, what Mike McCoy thinks is going to be happening there in San Diego. We're going to be talking about the blackout, our good friend Amy Costazano and the South Bay Booster Club. Those guys out there having a great tailgate that's going on. And then I just want to touch a little bit in this first segment, kind of about the bad rap that Raider fans have been getting. And hopefully, because of the fact that they are with Fans Against Violence, hopefully this can go through. We can get down there, really support the team, and get in and get out of there without any incidents. And, you know, we can do the Raider Nation proud. So the first thing, there's an article here, and I've got to look it up. I'm sorry. Usually I'm pretty prepared, but today I was running a little bit behind. By Eric Williams. Eric Williams, and from ESPN, Eric D. Williams. And he writes about what's happening, about what happens every year, right, at the Charger game, where generally speaking, even if the Chargers are winning, there's a very large number of Raider fans there, even if the Chargers are winning. I mean, this is not a case of, well, they're not winning right now, so, why go? Even when they're winning, there's a ton of fans. The Raider Nation travels. I hear it all the time. Oh, the Steelers or the Packers or whoever it is, Dallas. The Raider Nation travels better than any nation. The fact we're even calling them nations, I mean, we're the first nation. But the bottom line is, we travel better than any fan base, in my opinion, in the National Football League. And I think everybody knows it. They don't write about it a lot. They tend to want to put us down as, it goes into the narrative that we're going to talk about, the bad rap narrative. They can't afford tickets. How could they afford, they must have stolen money to get here, or stole a car in order to drive here on their way to prison, whatever it is. So anyways, he kind of goes in and he talks about, some of the reasons why the Chargers may not, why Charger fans may not want to show up, and why it may turn out to be more Raider fans. But we know, folks, that it has nothing to do with the record or anything else. But let's go ahead and take a look at what he says here. There are many reasons for fans of the San Diego Chargers to stay away from Qualcomm Stadium when the Oakland Raiders come to town on Sunday. Their team is suffering through yet another disappointing season at 5-8. The Chargers are once again threatening to move north to Los Angeles. And to top it off, the hated Raiders look like Super Bowl contenders. Did you see that's ESPN right there? That's not just us. That's not just Raider fans. We look like we could potentially be Super Bowl contenders. And in the second half of the show, when we talk about defense and the turnover differential, there's some surprising things that I think people really should be looking at. Arriving with a 10-3 record and a 3-game winning streak against the Chargers. The Raiders have been road warriors this year, posting a 5-1 record away from home this season. Oakland quarterback Derek Carr told Bay Area radio station 95.7 The Game that he expects a Raider takeover of Qualcomm Stadium on Sunday. And it's not just Derek Carr. Like I said, the South Bay Booster Club and, so many different booster clubs and fans. I mean, they're just going to swarm on San Diego. I believe that because of the record, more fans are going to show up. Less fans for the San Diego Chargers are going to be there. Obviously, this is going to be a home game, the 9th home game, and it's only fitting because of the fact that we had to use one of our games in Mexico as our home game, right? Which is just so ridiculous. We traveled so much farther than Texas did, or than Houston did, but for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, that's your home game. Whatever. Well, we get the opportunity of going down to San Diego and having a large population of people from Los Angeles Also, people that just would normally travel go down there. Interestingly enough, this season, and I'm in Los Angeles, they're just showing Raider games on TV. They never do that. They show Charger games. They show Pittsburgh Steelers games. They show Patriot games. It's crazy. And I think that in the past, they've tried to do it. They've tried to air some Raider games, and then the Raiders would just lose by 40 points or something like that when they thought that they were going to win. And then they just defaulted back to, whatever games were the best games or whatnot. But this season, I've only had to go to 2 games to the pizza place that shows our games twice. Okay, normally they show every preseason game, but then they only maybe show 1 game a year on television. So that's a big thing. Winning does cure a lot. But again, when you look at it, it's not because the Chargers are 5-8. It's not because the Chargers may be moving to, Los Angeles. That could have been said for any one of the teams in the last, month or coming up. That's not what it is. What it is that Raider fans travel well. This team is doing really well, which means more fans are going to show up. That's just the numbers are not going to lie. If you're doing good, just like the TV ratings, people are going to show up. And it's probably not going to be Charger fans. Right now they're sitting there looking at their football team and just thinking, wow, what happened? And again, the second half of the show, we're going to talk turnover differential, and you'll kind of see why it happened. The bottom line is that they're committing the most turnovers in the National Football League. The Raiders are committing the fewest. So once again, it should be a very, very, very action-packed type of weekend out there in San Diego. But let's go ahead and look here. Charger head coach Mike McCoy says his players have signed up for 16 games, and even though San Diego's playoff hopes are running on fumes, McCoy still expects his team to play with urgency in the last 3 games. We're going to keep on fighting, McCoy said. That's what we do in this business, and we have the Raiders coming to town. So if that doesn't say enough to everybody, you have the wrong people in your building. Well, Mike McCoy, you're 27-34 at this point. You've won less games than you've lost. And in fact, when you were 9-7 the first 2 years, you took a really good football team and you've kind of ran it into the ground. I mean, 9-7, 9-7, 4-12. Now you're 5-8 at this point right now. You're out of the playoffs already. And your losses are coming recently in your coaching tenure. So it's not like you took a team, you lost, and then you had to build up and win. If you look at Jack Del Rio's 85-83. He's got a winning record, and he had a Jacksonville Jaguar team that was not very good. There was some losing that happened before he started winning. And he had a Raider team that was flat out awful. We're talking awful. This was an awful, awful football team. So his victories have come recently. He's taken something that wasn't very good, turned it around, and he's built upon that, and he's winning. So he's got guys believing. He's got guys fighting. And the things that they're fighting for is not just pride. Yeah, we're out there just doing. No, these guys are fighting for first place in the AFC West. They're fighting for the number 1 or number 2 seed, depending on what happens as we move, closer to the playoffs. So, again, you kind of have to look at this and you kind of have to say, you know what, it may not look really, really good for the San Diego Chargers. Now, with that being said, again, I want to get to the South Bay Booster Club. Our good friend, a good friend of the show, Amy Costazano, is a member. They've been putting things together. They have both a tailgate as well as the blackout process itself. They're at a beautiful hotel. Let's go ahead and bring that graphic up here. So as you can see, the second annual Raiders Blackout Party presented by the ORFCSD and the SBRBC, right? The original Raiders Fan Club San Diego and the South Bay Raider Booster Club. They're going to be having 4Dub and Tierra Chicana will also be there with Beto Perez and Raymond T. Jammin' 95.7 Hip Hop is going to be there. Again, it's December 17th from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. There's going to be a $10 entrance fee. Children 12 and under will get in free. $5 for parking. The place is going to be at the Handlery Hotel in San Diego. Beautiful hotel. Go ahead and look that up online. Absolutely gorgeous. And I think the room rates, because of this, are extremely low. $109, I think it is. For a room. It may be a little bit more than that now as we're getting closer. But there's going to be guest appearances by Lincoln Kennedy from 7 till 10 p.m. He's going to be doing autographs, and if you bring your own item, he'll actually be autographing those too. And there's just going to be a ton of vendors, raffles, food available, cash and carry, and then the ability to just kind of hang out with the Raider Nation and celebrate this time. Celebrate what's going on with this football team, the fact that they are winning. A lot of guys I'm seeing on Facebook are writing in there, hey, man, this is so incredible. I've been waiting half my life, for the Raiders to do this and to be in the playoffs. Well, you know what? Here's the opportunity. If you are in Southern California, I recommend you contact these guys ASAP. And become part of this, become part of the community that is going to be hosting it. And then let's go ahead and bring up the other graphic here. Then they've got the tailgate, which is 12, 18, 16 from 9 to 12 p.m. They're going to be in lot F4. There's $10 donations for taco plates, right? I'm sure that's just going to be yummy. Bring everything else that you need. And if you have an active membership card, they're going to waive that donation for those yummy, yummy tacos. So it's going to be great. But once again, that brings me up to another thing. I just kind of wanted to talk about it. I saw, I've been seeing a lot of reports on the way to Kansas City, the Raiders drink the plane dry. I've heard on the radio stations here in Los Angeles, oh, you're a Raider fan, you must be calling from a stolen phone, or is this the one collect call that you are going to make? You're going to make it to a radio station. Why don't you call your bail bondsman? All of these other types of things, the fights and all of those types of things. And I just want to say, this football team really is doing something special. It's a young, outstanding football team filled with character individuals. And, I just want to make sure that when we do get out there to San Diego, that people represent the Raider Nation the way that it should be represented. We're not thugs. We're not gangbangers. Not all of us. I mean, if you are and that's what you do, then that's up to you. But there are a lot of good people that just want to go support their football team, get in and get out of San Diego, go back to work and live their lives. And we don't want to be lumped in with everybody else out there. Again, look, if you make mistakes, that's understandable. Drink a little bit too much and, get a little bit heated. That's understandable. Just try to be safe. Again, when they're throwing these things around, I heard on the radio station on the Mighty 1090, which is a San Diego radio station that gets played down here in L.A. Oh, yeah, we're going to have extra security. We take Raider games differently than we take any other type of game. At a certain point, again, we want to change that image, and if you don't want to change that image, that's up to you. But there is a large contingent of people that do want to change that image, particularly fans against violence. So, let's go out there. Let's support this team. Let's make sure that they can hear us. Let's make sure that, it's an obvious home field advantage. Get this victory and then get into the playoffs. All right. In the second half, we're going to look at some NFL research, and we're also going to look at some turnover differentials. So stay tuned.
MMM Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room size rugs, only $69. Visit MMM Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. Okay, so as we talked about, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some interesting numbers that when I was researching, not necessarily for this game, but just kind of looking forward at this team. There's just been a lot of stuff that's being said. Hey, we're happy with where the Raiders are. You know, this team has exceeded my expectations. I'm just happy that they're winning. I've waited all my life, like I said, to see this team even make it as a wild card into the playoffs. And I just kind of wanted to look at it. You know, where is this team? What is this team? Do we have a better idea at 10-3 of this team than we did at sort of the mid-season point? And some of the things that I've been looking at, some of the things that I've been seeing are actually very, very, very encouraging. The first thing that comes to mind is that we've lost basically to Kansas City twice, and we lost to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, I think they kind of came out of nowhere. They attacked a weakness that we had. We weren't expecting it. And if anybody knew how to attack a struggling defense, it was going to be the Atlanta Falcons. So, you know, when you take a look at that game, you say, okay, we got beat. In that particular game, you know, we got beat. We weren't able to stop what it was that Atlanta was doing, and we got beat. If you take a look at the two Kansas City games, I know I'm going to keep on harping on this, but, you know, again, you give a team 2 weeks to prepare for you. You then play them in a monsoon. In that monsoon, you have a horrible game plan against this particular team. Hey, let's throw the ball like it's, 75 degrees and sunny outside. Let's throw the ball all over the place and try to win the game against Kansas City. You get turnovers, and I think Del Rio, again, panicked at a certain point. It was the only game where I really saw him do that. And decide to go for it on fourth down in your own turn. There were just a number of things in that particular game. But again, you give an opponent 2 weeks to prepare for you in your division, it's going to be tough. And then, like I said, the weather conditions and the game plan were terrible. Fast forward that to the second game on Thursday night, short week, we have to travel there. Again, another horrible game plan. Only 2 horrible game plans, though, in the entire season. So I'll give them a pass on that. I certainly wouldn't have done it the way that they did it, but once again, they get paid millions of dollars, and I don't. So it's my opinion, and I'll stick to it. I don't think that by any stretch of the means that it's a crazy opinion to have. So, you know, the bottom line is that this team is playing extremely well, but are they playing well enough to potentially make it to the Super Bowl if they do have to travel? And again, I'm going to throw weather out of the equation. I don't think the weather had as much to do with it. I think it was a factor. I think they're all factors. But I think the biggest factor was the play of Derek Carr and that pinky. So I'm not necessarily going to make that into the big, huge factor. You know, they can't play. They're like Tampa Bay. When it drops below 40 degrees, you know, they're inept. No, I don't think so. I think they played extremely well, given all the things going against them. So what you really have is you have 2 football teams. And pretty much they've beaten every other football team that has an opportunity other than the Patriots and the Dolphins to make it into the playoffs. So your Tennessees, you know, your Buffaloes, your Baltimores, you know, we're going to see against Indianapolis. But the bottom line is that they have beaten those teams. So they're a good football team. They are a good football team. Now, I looked at an interesting stat, and NFL Research on Twitter. You guys should really follow these guys because they have some fascinating statistics that they put up, and it helps me with a lot of the graphics actually that I do here. I kind of go ahead when I have a question, go over there, take a look, see if they've done anything on it. And in this case today, they did. So if you go ahead and take a look here, Raiders lead NFL in turnover differential. One of the teams to finish top 2 in turnover differential reached the Super Bowl in each of the last 3 seasons. Now, does that mean that they're going to reach the Super Bowl because they're number 1? No, it doesn't, obviously. It just means that in the last 3 seasons, if you consistently are taking care of the football and you're getting the football back from the opponent, you have a pretty good chance. Now, the teams that have made it into the Super Bowl also had really good defenses, so it's not just a turnover differential. But I think what's really interesting is the fact that this defense in the fourth quarter is really, really, really hunkering down. This, in my opinion, because of the hybridization, I think we started out last year really trying to do what Seattle was doing. And I think that it's failed miserably in many places, Jacksonville, Atlanta, and here in Oakland. If you don't have the personnel, if you don't have those two safeties, if you don't have the types of linebackers that you need to run that defense, if you don't have the right types of corners in their prime, and you don't have Pete Carroll, who really understands that defense, I think you're going to struggle. I think if you take it somewhere else, it can be effective, but it's going to take a very long time. And in most cases, you're not going to have the time to implement it. When Pete Carroll came from USC, basically they said, hey, do your thing, man. We'll put as much money as you want into it. We'll get the guys. We're on board, man. You're the guy. And nobody knew what he was trying to do at that time. Nobody was sitting there like, we've got to get Richard Sherman, you know. So very much like what happened with Bill Walsh, he had a system, went out and developed it. Well, when we brought it here, it didn't quite work. Jack Del Rio kind of had to take over a little bit. The defense got better last year. In the offseason, we went out. We really tried to go out and get the types of things that we needed. Another big corner in Sean Smith, which turned out not to be, you know, we got Reggie Nelson, who is a little bit old in the tooth and probably not best to play in this particular style of defense with the responsibilities that they're asking him to have. And, you know, we went out and got different guys and drafted some guys and did some different things to try to make it work. And once again, we struggled with it mightily for 4 games or so. And then Jack, I think, kind of jumped in and said, okay, we're going back to a hybrid form of defense. In that time, however, like I said, this defense is really, just like the offense, has turned into an enigma. It's turned into something that I don't think teams have really seen before. It is the ultimate bend but don't break offense. It kills you. It makes you wonder, why are they doing that? Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? But take a look at this graphic here. Look at number 1, Oakland, with 24 takeaways. They've only given the ball away 9 times. That's a plus 15 differential. Plus 15. Okay. You look at the top 5, the Minnesota Vikings, 22-10. The Kansas City Chiefs, 25-14. That would have been 25-11, but we got 3 turnovers, just couldn't capitalize against it. But anyways, so they're plus 11 right now. The Buffalo Bills and then the Atlanta Falcons, again, 18, and they've only given the ball away 10 times. They're a plus 8 differential. So the closest team right now to us that I think is going to be in the playoffs at this point is pretty much the Baltimore Ravens. They have I believe it's a plus 7. I didn't put everybody up here, but I believe it's a plus 7, which is we're still 2 times better than our closest competitor at this point. So if we can continue this trend, if we can take care of the football and we can take away the football, I think we've got a really, really good chance of doing some really cool things. 17 forced fumbles. Okay, that's number 3 in the league. We've taken the ball away 17 times. That's Khalil Mack. That's Bruce Irvin. That's these guys, you know, popping the ball out from guys. So once again, this defense is giving up yards. It's giving up field position. It's letting teams move into the end zone. But at the end of the day, it's intercepting balls, 12 interceptions, which is really good. The 22 sacks is kind of low. But what do you do? So once again, when you kind of start looking at it, now look here at the bottom half here. So what you're going to see is the New York Giants, the Los Angeles Rams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets. And then guess who? The San Diego Chargers. They've taken the ball away 25 times, but they've given it away 30 times. They've given it away 30 times. So we should get a turnover or 2 if we're lucky in this particular game, and that should really help us out. Now, again, when you start looking at this team and you start looking at what this defense does, particularly in the fourth quarter. So we come out, we allow teams to do certain things, but when we begin to make our comeback, this team really tightens up. And once it tightens up, the offense catches on fire. So again, if Derek Carr is healthy, if that finger is healthy, the next 2 weeks, I think everything's going to be fine. But if you look, the Raiders are giving up only 6.9 points a game, which is down from 8.6 in 2015. Now, and if you take a look in the last 3 games, they've only given up 2.3 points. In the last 3 games, New England and Pittsburgh both are at 6.7, and New England basically gave up 13 points in the fourth quarter alone on Monday night. So again, this team, when it comes down to it, when they really need to, this defense, it buckles down. I think we're something like 27th in the league, which again, the ultimate bend but don't break. Give up the yards, give up all the stuff, don't have all the great giddy numbers. Look, you got to remember, we spent the first 3 weeks breaking history in terms of how terrible this defense was. So that's why I say probably somewhere around week 4, they started the full transition into the hybrid defense that Jack Del Rio now is teaching Ken Norton. I think they've, gone away from it. And that's a conversation for another day. What's going to happen at the end of the season, with Ken Norton, and if he is going to embrace what it is that Jack's teaching him and continue on, which I think he absolutely can, or if, for whatever reason, Jack feels like, hey, you know what, there's a better candidate out there. But I believe that the Seattle defense idea has been scrapped. Like I said, if you are Pete Carroll in Seattle, I think it works great with that personnel, particularly those 2 safeties. I think it works great. I think it's a good defense in that situation. In our situation, not so much. So again, looking at the defense and sitting there and saying, okay, from a turnover differential, we're getting a lot of turnovers. We're not creating a lot of turnovers. We're playing smart football. In the fourth quarter, this defense is playing really, really, really well. We've got a good offense and we've got a good defense. It's giving up some plays. It's giving up big chunks of yardage, but when it has to, it seems to be making the plays that it has to. And, the last thing I want to touch on real quick is that the Raiders did bring in a quarterback. They worked out a quarterback, a linebacker, and a wide receiver. But the fact that they worked out a quarterback tells me that they're not sure. They're kind of sitting there saying we had better activate Connor Cook for this week. Somebody's going to have to run the practice squad. We should activate Connor Cook just in case. We've got to send Matt McGloin in there if Derek Carr's finger isn't where it needs to be. And in the event that we need an emergency quarterback, we need to activate Connor Cook, have him active for this game. And therefore, we're going to need another quarterback in there to run practices and do different types of things, just depending. I don't think it's a big deal, but I just thought it was worth noting. There is the possibility, again, like I said, that all 3 quarterbacks could be active this week in San Diego, and maybe even potentially going forward. So once again, that is interesting. Things are looking up. Things are really, really exciting. I'm excited. I'm sure you guys are excited. Once again, thanks so much for coming to the channel, watching these videos. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and send them to the W2W@gmail.com. Go ahead and hit us up on Twitter. You can get a hold of us at the W2W @gab.ai as well. And of course on Facebook at the W2W. You can always get a hold of us there. Send us your comments, send us your questions, your replies. If there's something that you guys would like to know about, go ahead and let me know, and I'll go and do some research on it, and we'll get up there. Pretty soon we'll be having the question of the day. That's going to be coming up starting next week. And we will have a question for you guys to interact with once a day. And and it should be fun. All right, guys, that's all for today. So we will see you guys tomorrow.